Oh, whoops. Okay.
We got some friends waiting in the chat. I got to push some buttons here, Scott.
Let's see.
I got to push some buttons here, Scott.
Okay.
We got some friends in the chat. Let's see here.
Oh, my.
We are live. Yeah, we are on. Let's see here. Let's bring everybody up. Scott, my friend,
Yes.
how's it going?
Life is wonderful. What are you talking about? It's great.
Life is fantastic. Let me switch some things over here. Color coordinated. Welcome to a live edition of Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Last time we didn't see each other.
No.
But this time we are in all of our visual glory. How's it going?
All is awesome. It's been I see lots of people there. Awesome. Okay. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Nick is in the house. Veda Rapino, thank you very much for joining us. Ubaldo, Lunar Girl, Drew, thank you so much for joining us. Let's scroll a little bit higher here. As more people come in, we will acknowledge their presence. Thank you so much for joining us on this live edition of Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, as we do every Saturday night. Not every Saturday night, but most Saturdays we got stuff to talk about. And tonight, I guess we do have stuff to talk about. But I want to make sure that I had a rough week, Scott.
Now, why is that?
So yesterday I got in trouble for saying a couple of things about Star Wars, some opinions of mine that maybe perhaps some other people didn't share. But
What? Opinions about Star Wars could be unpopular and get you in trouble?
Yes, sir.
This is all new to me.
But you know what? I got my Beskar straight from Kathleen Kennedy, and these all I cashed them in.
Okay.
And the Mandalorian is the best thing ever. So that's I was paid to say that. But anyways, let's start talking about this right after this.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
All right. Welcome, my friends, to the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast live edition, Saturday nights, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you do the math if you're living somewhere else.
I think based on those two, you could make a good calculation. I think
excellent.
You're good.
I'm sure you could. Excellent. So thank you everybody for joining us in the chat. We got quite a group. Rolando just came in. Thank you so much. So I got my margarita going here. We're ready to talk some Star Wars. Stay hydrated, my friends. But yes. We got some good download numbers on that episode that you joined me on a couple of weeks ago, whatever. But I had a lot of fun, and I was looking forward to today because, like I said before our little intro, we didn't get to see each other when we recorded that episode, but now here we are. Excellent.
That's right. And we both got our rooms on full display.
That's absolutely right.
Now you got a giant Vader thing over your right shoulder. What is that?
That is, so it's my Darth Vader costume, but I didn't want to put him away and take him out once or twice a year. So I decided, you know what, let's build an armature and then put him on display in my room here.
Now, what's the origin of the costume? Is it like a Ruby Supreme edition, or is it? I mean, is it something you put together yourself? What is it?
It's a little mishmash of everything. I did have the Ruby Supreme, but it wasn't that spectacular.
Mm,
I
that's what I
I
was
got
afraid of.
yeah, I got the Darth Vader mask. I had two of them. I sold the Rubies one, but I bought another fiberglass mask that is pretty nice, screen accurate. Cost me more than the rest of the outfit actually. Um, but yeah, absolutely. So the chest piece is was made by somebody, and I added some lights to it. Bought an inner cloak that was a little more authentic to the movie. But yeah, like I said, it's a little mishmash of everything, and definitely scare the children on Halloween in the neighborhood for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and that's kind of the only thing. I've always thought about getting like the Rubies, the Supreme Edition, but I've always been worried that Rubies tends to disappoint.
A little
And
bit. Yeah.
Ruby's good. I will tell you, I went with my son to, well, I'm trying to remember which celebration it was. He was fresh with birthday cash, and we went, and they had a whole row. One of the vendors had a whole row of the biker scout helmets, and my son has been a biker scout nut since he was a little kid,
Nice.
and he saw this. He's like, I'm going to get that. And I was like, it's going to cost almost everything you have. Why don't you hold off? Because something didn't look right in the box, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he could not be talked out of it. He bought the biker scout helmet, and we got it in the room, and you couldn't even, I mean, first off, like the face is flat almost. It's not
Mhm.
even, it's not right. And then when you put it on your head, there's a rim on there that slices your forehead open practically. And
Ouch.
it's a terrible, terrible waste of money. He never put it on, and it never looked right. And I've heard that there are things you can do to tweak them to make them look good,
Yeah.
but you shouldn't have to when you pay that kind of money for them. So I've always been a little leery of the Ruby stuff.
Yeah, I had rented one Halloween the Ruby Stormtrooper, and it was it looked a little weird. The helmet looks a little weird. The rest of the outfit
Mm.
is fine, but the helmet looked weird. The bubble eyes were, you can actually see like they weren't lenses like the more traditional 501st outfits. They
Yeah.
were actually like bubble pieces of bubble plastic that kind of almost came out of the helmet, which was
Weird.
yeah, it's I guess different manufacturers, but it depends on your body type. Vader, I know Vader's got one in the chat, and he's had his for a while, and he looks fantastic in it. Very ominous and dark for sure. But yeah, there's a lot out there, and yeah.
Now, if you want to talk Vaders, I don't know if you can see this thing right up here. Where is it? Right there. That,
Yep.
that right there. That is an old Don Post Vader helmet.
Oh, yeah. I had that. A funny story with the Don Post helmet for me when I was younger. I think it was 19, must have been 83, a little after 83. I made my father search high and low for a store that sold them. We found a costume store way on the south side of Chicago. It took us like an hour and a half driving straight down that street, and appreciate the love that my father showed me by driving and taking all that time to pick up that Don Post Darth Vader helmet. It cost me a whopping $50, which was a big deal for me, as a
Oh
kid,
yeah.
for sure. But I
Back
held,
then?
yeah, I held on to it, and I held on to the box. If you remember, the box was kind of like, it was a lopsided box that went, the flap, it had like a double flap that went over. I still had the box. There was one time when I needed some cash, and unfortunately I sold it,
Mm.
let that go. But I hope it went to a a nice home for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I had wanted one of those since when I guess 78, 79 when they first came out, and there was a kid that went to school with my brother, because my brother was 6 years ahead of me in school, and I had always had that, and you see it advertised in Starlog, and so I'd always wanted
Right.
one, and it was 88. No, it was about 90. I was a couple of years into college, and I went to Florida State, and for whatever reason, right off campus at Florida State, there was a magic and costume shop,
Hmm.
and I would go hang out at that thing, and I noticed one day they had, you go hang out at the magic shop, and they do tricks for you all day. And then when you go, oh yeah, show me how to do that, then you pay for it and you get a cool trick. And I noticed they had the Vader helmet, but it was the Don Post helmet, and it was just kind of sitting on the rack. And how much was it? It was $39.99, and I was living on $50 a week, so that wasn't really, a reasonable thing to do. But the next week, when I got my money for the week, my $50, I went down there and I said, "Give me that helmet. I'll figure out how to make this work otherwise." And the guy goes, "All right, it's $49.99." I said, "Wait a minute. Last week it was $39.99." And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, I guess I'll mark it down for you this one time." It's like, right.
Nice. Yeah.
So I got that helmet. That's how I got it. But it was just a thing I had always wanted. It was just kind of, as a kid, that was a thing to me. So I still have it sitting up there, but I didn't have a box.
Very
I
nice.
mean, pretty much he took it off the rack and handed it to me.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. Very nice. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So this week we got treated to a couple of Star Wars items. I posted a while ago. I asked our friends, what are you going to watch first? Are you going to watch The Mandalorian first or Bad Batch? Which one did you pick?
Well, it's funny you say that. I am still at a point in my life where I've just last week finished season 4 of Clone Wars.
Okay.
So I'm not up to Batch yet.
Gotcha.
Easy pick. Although I will say I really loved season 4 of Clone Wars, but that's probably a very dated thing to say right now.
Yeah, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you've started on that journey. I guess it sure gets interesting from then on. And then yeah, absolutely. So The Mandalorian episode what? First
17.
episode, chapter 17, The Apostate. I'm going to, so Brad, my co-host, is in the Navy, and the day I guess that it dropped, he was leaving for his tour of duty. He goes to and fro, comes back, and then leaves again. But he had enough time to watch it and text me, and we were texting back and forth. But I wanted to, I guess what I want to do is kind of not really break it down scene by scene, just kind of get some overall thoughts on some of the major plot points or major sequences, and maybe talk about stuff that we didn't like, stuff that we liked. And then towards the end, the episode's only like a little over half an hour long. We usually go 50 minutes, an hour here on Scarif Live. So we'll this might be a short one, but let's what did you think of the season opener for this third season overall? I guess we can kind of start there.
Now, did you get in trouble for dissing it? Did you get in trouble for not liking it? Is that what happened here?
Yes, I got in trouble for giving my opinion on what I thought of it, and then also comparing it to another Star Wars property that was, obviously we know that they're all different, but but sometimes I do like to kind of bring in examples from other properties or other Star Wars things. And that's where I kind of got in trouble, where I guess you're not supposed to do that when you're a fan. You're just supposed to like one thing in that realm and not even talk about anything else.
No, I don't think so.
I was called it's funny, I was called a corporate shill for liking Andor, but not really liking the season opener for Mandalorian. So that was my dig.
It's the same corporation.
Yeah. But I guess that's internet logic for you.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that going on out there. It makes my head hurt. No, look, in the overall, and it's interesting because I do want to hear some of the things that I didn't read your criticism of. I did see that you said you didn't care for it and you were going to give it a second view. I gave it a second view too. I really enjoyed it. I liked a lot of it. And to me, it's a lot of what I just like about Star Wars. It was simple. There was good conflict. There was good visual. There were great little character moments. It was a lot of table setting. I'll grant you that. So at times it got a little expository, but in the overall, I had enjoyment for it. I dug it.
Yeah, it's to me it seemed like a half-hour recap of every story element that we already knew, and it also seemed like the episode was assembled from footage from the cutting room floor. And I know things are filmed digitally and there is no cutting room floor, but you guys in the chat, you guys can kind of Google that and see where I'm coming from. But yeah, so that, overall, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. There were a lot of things in Star Wars to me that lately, I think, that takes me out of it. And then sometimes character motivation is one big thing, one big deal. I don't do movies, but I have been in rooms with writers doing projects. And I remember, I always remember, every so often, somebody gets up and say, really, this is the best you can come up with. And I feel like I want to be that guy in the writing room saying, really, this is our season premiere. We waited so long for this. And it's only half an hour. And it just seemed very repetitive. We knew he was an apostate. We knew he had to do, go to the underwater lakes of whatever to redeem himself. So this whole episode is almost seemed like he was just going to place and telling everybody there that that's what he had to do. And it just seemed like a kind of a waste of time.
I think you do have to kind of take yourself out of it as a fan who keeps up with everything. A number of the people that aren't into the Star Wars, as so many of us are, those of us here, a lot of those guys didn't watch Book of Boba Fett, didn't see the purpose in it, and didn't see a lot of what happened there. And that's where a lot of that conversation happened originally. And I think a lot of what they did in this episode was kind of go, okay, we got to bring everybody else up to speed. So here we go. But I thought, I don't want to do scene by scene, but let's talk about the opening here. Did you feel I felt that was kind of a deliberate fake out. I thought we were seeing a flashback at first.
Oh yeah. I totally thought that little kid was Din Djarin.
Yeah.
I think it was contrived, a contrived scene to introduce, Mando and Grogu back together. But I definitely thought it was a flashback.
But doesn't it kind of show this kid, even though it wasn't actually a flashback, doesn't it kind of go to show this was his experience? This is what he did. This is why he's so attached to this religion, because at this young age, like this kid, he finds this direction that he's being given by the armor and Paz Vizsla, and they're all there kind of giving him this creed to live by at such a young age. I mean, I thought it was a little bit of a fake out, but also it's kind of a stand-in, if you will.
Right. There's a comment in the chat by Backyard TARDIS, our friend Nick, that something that I did pick up on, but I think for me it was a little bit of an execution problem when it came to the theme. Let me put it up because him and we are in a private chat with another group, and he mentioned this, and it's something that I think is kind of important, especially when it comes to, the lore of Star Wars, everything that kind of George Lucas infused into this space fantasy. Was that the one? Hold on a second. This episode was jam-packed with religious content. Yeah. So there, obviously that first, let's see here. There's a lot of baptism parallels. I think this is what Nick is talking about. It showed that Din made this vow as a kid before he really understood what he was agreeing to. And I think, yes, I definitely caught that. So there is that element, that deep religious element in the story here.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me in kind of carrying that theme on is you see kind of Grogu's response to some of the discussions that he's having, where he is, being a little, I guess, expository in discussing what he has to do and why he has to do it, because Grogu has literally gone from one very rigid and let's say unusual religion, which I think Jedi are, to this very rigid and unusual religion. So he's kind of seeing this. He literally left the Jedi to go to this,
right?
Which is again another essentially religious sect that is very rigid in their rules. He couldn't follow the rules of the Jedi clearly, so now he's over here with the Mandalorians, and Din Djarin clearly couldn't follow the rules of the Mandalorians. So
is this it almost seems like it's out of the what is that saying, out of the pot and into the fire sort
out
of
of
thing?
The frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. Because obviously you mentioned it, he came from one religion that he clearly couldn't follow, and he's seeing Din Djarin doing the same thing, or he's trying to follow it at least. Obviously this is the first episode of the season. We don't know what's going to happen in the future with the, I guess, the growth of the character when it comes to his redemption. Is he going to get to the lakes and then realize that maybe this is not what he wants to do? I don't know. So there's a lot there, obviously, again, as far as setup goes, in this first episode. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't real hard on this episode, because I felt like there was a lot of table setting. It was, we've got 8 episodes. Here's kind of the starting point for all of it. I did like, and maybe it's just me, I did like that Greef Karga is continually having to remind people that he's High Magistrate Greef Karga, not Magistrate Greef Karga. It reminded me of Inspector Clouseau. At one point, when Dreyfus goes nuts, he gets elevated to Chief Inspector, and he keeps having to remind people, Chief Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier I tweeted out I needed more podcast shirts, so I pitied 2 of my podcast friends. It was either going to be Coruscant Radio Underground or Jedi Temple Archives podcast, and the fans have spoken. Just want to give a little shout out to the Jedi Temple podcast and my friend Rob over there. But yeah,
nice. I'm just packing that.
It's always a good one. It's always a good one. Okay, so my friend Andrew at the Science Fiction Area, it's been 26 months since the last episode. You had to take a minute to set everything up. Yeah, I guess like sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I do have a problem, like you said, separating myself from the Uber fan. But I think if this episode was maybe longer and maybe dealt with the setting up of everything a little quicker and got into more of the meat of the story, maybe I probably wouldn't be as hard as I am for this. It was like 34 minutes, 37 minutes with credits.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably closer to 32 between recap and credits and all that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've got a buddy, one of my old college buddies is doing the screenwriting thing out in LA. And, and he's working, he's making a living, and, he's mostly writing Hallmark movies, but he's making a living. And, we were talking about this, and when the show first came on, I said to him, I appreciate that some of these episodes are only 30, 35 minutes because they're telling the story they want to tell in the time frame they want to tell it. And, they're not letting a length dictate it. They're not padding it or anything. He said, I hate to tell you, that's not what's happening. I said, what do you mean? He goes, the short episodes are short because of budget. It's only because of budget. It's not the storytelling, it's the budget. And I think probably in this instance, you're seeing a lot of that. Had a great looking space battle in this episode, but again, a budget buster probably.
Here's another rumor that I heard that the 2 Mando episodes in the Book of Boba Fett were supposed to be season openers for this show, and COVID was still kind of hindering production, and then we got this. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but it's interesting. Like I said, to me, it just seemed like they just used like extra footage to assemble this episode together. Definitely too short. And again, I don't have a problem with short episodes, but just this one was just like glaringly short. Because to me, again, nothing seemed to have really progressed. But let's talk about the good stuff. You know that that creature at the beginning of the episode looked pretty damn good.
He did.
The giant
Again, budget.
alligator. Yeah, I think they blew their budget in the first scene already, and
He
that's
was-
why the entire episode is only 33 minutes.
it might have been because he was good looking. And what I loved is there's a lot of alligator to him. There's a lot of turtle to him. There's a lot of alligator to him. But it's kind of like when they did the AT-ATs and they modeled the movements after the elephants that they'd studied. And when you saw this giant gator thing, at one point later in this fight, he does a death roll like an alligator would, and I thought that was great. I mean, it's just like going straight for the biological accuracy of this thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny, one of the other issues. I'll throw in some of my little digs every so often.
Okay.
One of the other issues I had was, these Mandalorians had rocket packs, and this creature was attacking them. I didn't see the reason why they were attacking this beast. They could have just like either walked away or left. And again,
some of them did not.
Some of them did not, but it's again, this was a little bit more of a contrivance to get Mando and Grogu back to save the day. So they're battling this creature, and then obviously Din Djarin shows up with the ship, and Grogu pops up, and it's all cute, and roll credits.
My issue with the fight wasn't so much that they had rocket packs and could have gotten away, because the armor doesn't have rocket packs, and several of the other ones on the ground didn't. The kid didn't. My issue was more, why did they launch the lines at them? They've got the
that's a very Star Warsy thing, though.
Yeah,
when you think about it. The AT-ATs, obviously. King Kong, that sort of thing. You launch those lines.
It just didn't
kind of hold them down.
Why? What are you going to do? What damage are you going to do to them with that?
You're going to hold them down and do what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing.
But so we get to a point where he goes back to Navarro. And obviously Navarro has changed. We know this from previous episodes. And again, I can't remember if it was towards the end of the last season of Mando, or if we see Navarro. We do see Navarro in those two Book of Boba Fett episodes, I think, right?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know that we do.
I can't remember either.
Weird.
But again, I don't know, another danger of putting those two episodes in the Book of Boba Fett when, I don't know. But let's see.
Probably what could have been done with Book of, because I feel like those episodes were purely there to say, here's why Grogu's on scene. And I think they could have just, in Book of Boba Fett, just had him show up and then explain it later. But for whatever reason, they had to go linear with it.
Yeah, let's just blame budget for everything now.
Yeah.
So we get a glimpse of Navarro. Whatever you think about the behind the scenes drama with Gina Carano, or like or not like her character in the show, I think they handled the I guess the resolution of why she's not around fairly well. They mentioned that her character was recruited to go on a mission, which, obviously opens up the ability to, if they wanted to bring her back, if they could bring her back, to be able to bring her character back, if not the actress per se. But
and I honestly, I really liked the character. And one of the things I liked about it is that we have a lot of times in Star Wars where we have 5 foot tall, 90-pound women beating the crap out of gigantic men. And, it happens and you go, okay, Leia did this. And then you go, okay, well, Rey did this. And then it really started hitting me in Rogue One when Jyn Erso is also a 5 foot, 90-pound woman beating up a bunch of big men. It's like, this is not that it's an aberration. I can accept it, but it's just a physical mismatch that just shouldn't keep happening. So when I see Cara Dune out there and she's got this physicality about her, that says, yeah, I believe she's getting in the middle of this and mixing it up with these guys and beating the heck out of these people. So I liked that from the start with her, that
Yeah.
she had this raw physicality about her that I believed she would get in there and bust some skulls. So I was sad to see all that blow up happen. I'm glad they haven't recast it. I feel like if they just, they've basically have given her a noble out on the program. I'm sure there's some people that would have been like, it would have been great if she'd been blasted to 1,000 fiery pieces or something, but they did this in a way that didn't really anger anybody. It just kind of was, it was just there.
Yeah, and like I said, in universe they handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
Enough to, they wanted to bring her back. But yeah. So you like the thick ladies, huh?
No, I just see that's the thing. It's not about that though. It's about do I buy a bunch of, if it was a 90-pound guy beating the crap out of all these people, it still would not really wash with me once or twice. Yeah, but when it keeps happening, and then even Emphas Nest turns out to be a little 90-pound girl who's beating the crap out of everybody. And at some point you just kind of go, I can't, it's one of those things where and people go, well, you buy spaceships and the Force and lightsabers and you can't. Yes, but there's a difference. You don't know lightsabers, you don't know spaceships, you don't know the Force.
You're making up the physics.
Yeah, I know physicality here, and I'll buy it once or twice, but I can't keep buying it. So yeah, I just always liked her physicality in this whole thing.
Yeah, and obviously, people in the chat are mentioning that she's an MMA fighter, so it makes sense. Yeah. But I loved the so in the earlier seasons of Mandalorian, and again because of the limitations of the volume, one of my biggest complaints was that there were not enough wide shots that fit into the Star Wars, television / movie thing. You can tell that the shots were not, there were limitations. This time around, and I think they started changing that a little bit during the second season of Mando. In the middle, they really had some great stuff, and obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi had some halfway decent, really wide shots. It really expanded the scenery. Navarro looks great. All the space stuff looks fantastic, and obviously, when you're talking about Lucasfilm, if the space stuff doesn't look great, then you got a problem there. But Navarro looked great, and I know some folks said that it reminded them of a Disney theme park, which I on my second watch I can kind of see
like Galaxy's Edge,
right?
Yeah,
but
it's funny that came to mind, but Galaxy's Edge does have more of a lived-in look. That's one of the things. Star Wars has always got that. We always talk. Fans always talk about. You and I don't always talk about it because we haven't known each other that long. But you often, when you're talking about Star Wars, you talk about that lived-in universe, the beat up everything. But I think one of the things that's supposed to stand out about Navarro now is it doesn't have that look anymore. It did. Sure. Now it looks very clean. Everything looks very bright. Everything's very shiny. It's almost a prequel era look to the whole thing because you're seeing the prosperity that is taking place on Navarro now that Greef Karga's in there. Although I will say I get the sense there's still something going on beneath the surface with Greef Karga. I don't think he goes from being a guy who's a little shady and a little suspect to being a shining knight.
So you think there's something there, huh?
Yeah, I think there's a little more there. I think there's a reason why he wanted because even before the pirates show up, he says, I really need a marshal. I badly need a marshal. Well, why?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else happening. There's something else going on with him.
And I can also say that he might need a marshal because pirates keep coming and trying to, reestablish criminal underworld.
Yeah,
as we saw these pirates that wanted to have a drink in the school. There were a lot of complaints about the pirates. I didn't find them objectionable at all. I think they look pretty good. Later on, get some more interaction with the pirates in space, and for somebody that you probably have not watched the animated show Resistance. My son was at the age when that show came out, so I watched both 2 seasons, and it did give me Resistance vibes. There were some space pirates in that. The pirates were, they were, what is the species name for Bosk?
Oh, he's a Trandoshan.
Yeah, so there were a couple of Trandoshans, but they had some really cool mishmashed helmets. They had some, half stormtroopers with different, functional pieces. You can tell they're stormtroopers, but they're painted different. So we might be, seeing some, some kind of mishmash space pirates coming into the fray here in this show. But
I see a lot of people in the chat were wanting Hondo to be the big boss, but I had a different design. When they said pirates, I had a very different design. And when I saw the Star Destroyer, or I guess what type of Star Destroyer it is, I started getting a vibe that maybe we're going to get to see Crimson Jack.
Oh,
we did not see Crimson Jack. You posted a Crimson Jack cover this week on Twitter too.
Yeah.
But and Crimson Jack is now in the Marvel comic, the current Marvel comic. So I guess he's canon now. He's in the what is it? The Galactic Star Cruiser miniseries.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent.
So yeah, I was hoping for a Crimson Jack appearance, but was not to be.
Hondo is such a great character in the animated shows. Can't wait to see him in live action. They did a great job with Cad
Bane.
And too bad that happened, but I think he was great. I think he was the only one that made sense in that show. He was talking to Boba Fett and told Boba Fett that he's softened up a little bit and what the hell is going on, but well, we'll see what happens in season.
And Cad and he go way back, as I'm learning from what finally making my way through the Clone Wars. So
exactly. So I love those little cape droids that Karga had.
Yes.
I didn't notice them until my second viewing, and the little droids that followed him around made sure that his cape was not did not get dirty.
Correct.
When we do our part 2 cape discussion, we'll have to throw that in.
Yeah, that's an all new one too. Yeah, because he's got the kind of Do style droids holding his cape. Because they got that one wheel each of them.
Yeah,
I only saw one of them the first time around. I did a second watch through to take some notes, and I realized there were 2 of them back there.
Yeah, one on each side. That's too funny. Yeah, I think those are cool.
But again, all of that pretense tells me there's something beneath the surface with Greef Karga.
Yeah,
it's a little too self-serving, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see. So I think we skipped one very important plot point that is not examined or explained, but folks that are fans of Rebels understood it completely when I think they were traveling to Navarro through hyperspace. Grogu looks up to the sky, to space there, and he sees the silhouette of some space whales.
Yep.
And for a brief moment, he acknowledges them, and then the story goes on. But that definitely was a surprise to me. I recognized them right away, obviously. But again, it's interesting because you said earlier that we have to separate ourselves from the regular fan versus like Uber fans that almost acknowledge everything. I almost feel this might be very controversial. I almost feel that they should be able to tell a story in a way that you don't dumb it down for the casual fan. Like if you've been invested in this world and a little tidbit, and if they happen to throw it in for a reason, not just to throw it in, I guess the narrative should continue from there on, not backtrack to say, well, this is why we put it in. And I know there's 17 people on the outskirts that have never seen Rebels, so we got to explain it now.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, because I feel the same way about adaptations from novels. I remember when the first Harry Potter film came out, and apparently I was the only person that had not read the first book. And I remember coming out going, I have a real problem with this movie, because in the movie, the hero is acted upon throughout and never acts. He never does anything himself. People do things for him the whole movie. He never does anything on his own. And people kept saying, yeah, but the difference, you got to read the book to understand that. And I'm going, but it's an adaptation, which means it should be self-contained, and it should, I should know in watching this, not having read the book, I shouldn't have to be able to read the book to understand what makes sense about that. So no, I think you're totally right on that. But there are ways to do it, obviously,
Sure.
through dialogue, through action, to make it so that you don't separate. But in this particular episode, you do have kind of the mission of imparting information to people who did not watch Book of Boba Fett, in a way to say, because look, I mean, Baby Yoda's the franchise. You advertise Book of Boba Fett, that's not Baby Yoda. He's, so you're going to get more people tuning into a Mando episode than you are downloading and streaming a Book of Boba Fett episode, just by default. But I think in that situation, you do have to find a way. And what you're saying is you don't care for the way in which they did it, but you do have to find a way to impart that information to the other crowd. But you should do it in a way that's not dumb. You're right on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially with Star Wars, I think this IP has a unique responsibility to all fans, obviously, but it has a unique opportunity that I don't think any other IP has. It's decades old. There is tons of material out there. It's not like this is the first trilogy where you can just introduce something nilly-willy and have people explore on their own. There is it's daunting. If you ever talk to somebody that says, you know what, I've never seen a Star Wars, but I'd like to get into it, what do you tell them? Where do you go? Where do you tell them to start? So it's very daunting in that respects. There is a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, and again, I don't think those things just showed up just to be a reference. I mean, I feel like at the end of this season, you're going to be able to go back and look at this episode and see all of the different things that they set up for you that came into play later in the season. And I think I think you're going to be able to reframe this episode 8 weeks from now and go, oh, wow, okay, there was a reason for this. There was a reason for that. And I think that's one of those shots where I think that's going to come back into play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we'll have you back in 8 weeks and we'll talk about it. But
and if I'm wrong, then you'll get to whack me with it there.
No, but obviously they're setting up for the Ahsoka series. They're setting up for Ezra and everything that happened in that series. Did you watch Rebels?
I started on Rebels. I dropped out. The big problem with all the TV shows, like I bought everything. I was never out of the loop, but just I couldn't make myself sit down and watch TV shows.
Sure.
And it wasn't any lack of respect for them. It's just kind of what did I prioritize my time with, and it wasn't the TV shows.
Sure.
Now I'm on my my stationary bike, then I'll take the iPad and I'll set it up on the the thing and watch an episode or two. Or actually, right now I can watch 3 episodes and the amount of time I'm on the bike. So it's been easy for me to catch up because I'm a captive audience at this point. If I'm riding my regular bike, it's an audio book. But if I'm on the other bike, I'm usually watching something or reading something. So
yeah, Rebels is interesting. Obviously all the animated shows kind of start kind of young, because obviously that's how they bring you into the fandom. But Rebels has some very interesting story points, and the later seasons really get deep into the lore of the dark side and Palpatine and the characters therein. So if you pick that back up, which I might recommend that you do now that we see Purgles in this episode, just so you can understand pretty much what was going on or what is going to be happening in the future of this show, and then obviously the Ahsoka, because last episode Ahsoka mentioned Grand Admiral Thrawn, and besides the expanded universe mention of his character, he was also in Rebels. So
oh yeah, no, I mean, I keep up with vaguely what's going on, but I just haven't sat and watched all the stuff. So, but yeah,
Sure.
I'll and yeah, the plan is when I get done with Clone Wars, then I'll pop over to, I'll just keep the thread going to Rebels and then make my way into Bad Batch. But it's been an interesting journey just to sit through Clone Wars kind of all at once without the breaks in the seasons and everything. And a lot of that's because between, like, from the end of episode 3 or season 3 to the beginning of season 4, there's a vast change in the renderings and the animation style. The characters are much more refined.
Right.
The visuals are much more complex. But it also, the writing seems to be narrowing in on being a genuine bridge between episodes 3 and 4, or excuse me, 2 and 3, where you start to see Anakin's fall, and you don't get enough of a sense of that, I think, in the films. This for a lot of people, I think that the change Anakin to Vader comes very quickly. But we see, particularly in that last couple of arcs in season 4, where he's going down a dark path. And why is he going down a dark path? He's going down a dark path because of his attachments to Obi-Wan.
Right.
And so again, it's the whole, I'm not quite in line with the Jedi thing because I'm forming attachments that are not healthy and they're leading me down the dark path. So I'm having fun doing that. But yeah, I will get into Rebels next.
Yeah, for sure. It's those are some good stories there. Somebody put in the chat here, Tina put, it goes hard on the lore, and there's some episodes there that will make you go, but yeah. Back to Mandalorian.
Yes.
Where did we leave off? So then, again, not going scene by scene. I think, the fact that we saw Bo-Katan just kind of sitting around tweeting all day on her throne.
Yeah, she didn't have much to do.
We'll see what happens between those two characters. She seemed a little fed up with the fact that she obviously no longer has or does not have the Darksaber. She tells Din Djarin to go wave it around and they'll follow you anywhere. So I think we might see some really great interactions and character dynamics between the two. Looking forward to that. I always enjoyed Bo-Katan in the animation, and was very happy when they brought her on board live action.
I noticed you skipped past the Anzellans.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. Here's another controversial tweet that I think maybe a month ago I got in trouble for. I think.
Did you?
Star Wars is getting too damn cute. Baby Yoda, the Anzellans, babysitting club. It's I think I've had enough of it, and I think that's one of the reasons I really hold Andor to high regards, because it's there's no cute creatures. Nobody's babysitting any little Anzellans or whatever. But yeah,
I have a rule on cute, and my rule on cute is if it serves the story, I'm very okay with it. So me and the Anzellans and I, first off, I loved Babu Frick, and I was sad that he didn't really get his due in episode 9, because episode 9 got shunned by so many people. I loved the Anzellans in this. You want to talk about cute overload. You got Grogu and the Anzellans, and them yelling "bad baby" at him and everything. Right. I'm sorry, I loved it. I adored it, and but they actually do serve a plot function, and I love that whole scene. I love Greef Karga. They're clearly speaking basic,
right?
And Greef Karga is translating for him the whole time,
right?
And he keeps looking at him like, "I got it. Would you stop?"
Right. I heard what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when they're showing them in their shop working, and then they cut to the long shot, and he's scrunched up in there. It's a little tiny shop. You get the sense of scale all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a good contrast. You've got Ewoks who are cute and who very much serve a plot function. You've got, I feel like, the Anzellans and Babu Frick as well, who are cute and serve a plot function. You've got porgs who are cute
and taste like chicken.
and taste like chicken, and that's about it. And to me, that's the difference. When you try to make porgs a thing, there's no reason for them. I mean, there's a reason, but it's a production reason, and it's not a story reason.
Yeah.
But the Anzellans have a story reason.
Sure.
Grogu has a story reason.
Yeah.
R2D2, who was supposed to be the load of cuteness in the original film, if you remember when it first came out, he very much had a story reason.
I never thought R2D2 was cute until I was maybe an adult. I'm like, oh yeah, he's a cute droid. But back then, I'm like, wow, that's an awesome droid.
Yeah, because you're little. But the adults were going, oh, it's so cute. You know, there he is. He's talking crap to the other. That's so cute. The other robot. You know.
Yeah.
The mouse droids. You know, they're cute. But everybody didn't try to make a thing out of the mouse droids.
Well, they sold a whole bunch of porgs, so I guess they had some function.
Yeah, that was the fun. I actually have a Porg magic band somewhere in here. I don't know where it is, but I also have a Life Day magic band right over there. So
there you go.
You know, it's exciting. But no, I like the Anzellans. I like the scene. I like them being included in it. I like them getting some exposure because again, I adored Babu Frick in episode 9. There's a lot that I'll defend on episode 9. But yeah, I like the Anzellan scene. Right before that, I liked the tribute to the Terminator, and clearly that is obviously a tribute to Terminator, the original, you know, where IG's crawling around.
Yeah,
because it looks just like Terminator escaping from the masher that he was in. You know,
exactly. You know, getting back to character motivations, and I think I'm going to say this, but I think somebody had explained it to me, and I would accept that explanation. I didn't understand why Din Djarin wanted IG-11 back. And again, it almost seemed like, okay, let's reconstruct him, but let's bring in the Babu Fricks because they can build droids.
I will tell you, I think I half agree with you. Is that okay? Half agree.
Fine. That's fine.
Remember, Din Djarin did not like droids at all.
Right.
Hated droids because of what happened to him as a kid. We assume the trauma of the super battle droids coming at him and all of that, destroying his family. So he's got IG-11 who literally goes down protecting Grogu. So yeah, I get that he wants him back. I get why he wants it. Well, we don't really know why he wants him back at this point, but he knows he needs a droid, and that's the droid he can trust. However, when they get him reactivated and he suddenly can't be trusted, I would think that would make him reconsider at that point.
Yeah, the thing that got me is again that's a perfect explanation, and somebody had mentioned that to me, and I accept it. But when he says he reverted back to his programming of taking out Grogu, I can't remember. Din Djarin says that, what if I get you the part that you need? I can't remember how they switched him back to not the assassin droid IG.
Queel did it.
Yeah. But how? Do you remember?
I thought he just wiped him and reprogrammed him.
Yeah.
And just retrained him. Remember, he had to retrain him. Remember, he was training him how to pour and so he literally had to train him.
That's funny. Charles says they have to revert him back to Windows 10.
I mean, pretty much.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think you do have a valid point in that. I mean, I understand why he wanted IG-11 specifically, but once IG-11 had reverted, then you go, well, why? I mean, why can't it just be some other droid at that point?
Yeah, but I think I will accept the answer that was given regarding that. IG was really the only droid that he trusted, and if he was gonna have a droid, might as well be him. So I think I'm cool with that. We are. I'm going to try to end because I think our friends over at Dork Wars podcast are going to do their review, and our friend Nick is heading over there. But Nick, tell me in the chat, are they going in now or at 8:30? Let me know. I can't remember. So again, my partner, my co-host here, Brad, and I were going back and forth. I'm going to read some of the stuff that he said. Let's see here. He says, I'm watching Mando right now, and when you mentioned a while back regarding Book of Boba Fett as it looking like it's a fan film, that kept ringing through my head. And he says, I've got 14 minutes left, but unless there's some huge twist at the end, this episode is pretty damn cheesy. Overall, he did not like the writing, and he gave it a 2 out of 10, which is very low.
Wow.
Very low. He was very disappointed. The conversations with Grogu were a corny way of narrating Din Djarin. We kind of talked a little bit about that. But yeah, a 2 out of 10. I wanted to, before we end, I wanted to get your ratings on the episode. I'm not a 2 out of 10 kind of guy. It's low, but I will have to say that mine is like maybe 4 out of 10. For many reasons. But whoever's leaving us in the chat, thank you very much, Vader, for joining us. But what about you, Scott? What is your overall rating on The Apostate?
I'm probably about a 7.5. I was never bored. Okay. I smiled a lot, which I like to do. I had a great space battle. And I recognize, my biggest complaint is it suffered from first actitis.
Yeah.
I view this episode as the first act for the season. And, there are always those things that happen in first acts that sometimes can be a little grating. But in the overall, no, I had a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
And that's what I want.
I'm looking forward to next week's episode because I think one of the I recognize the name on either the director or the director of photography that won some awards for Mudbound, which looked fantastic. But yeah, hopefully we'll get more story out of the second episode of the season. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, hopefully I won't start another internet battle next week.
Do you have an opinion, Ro?
Oh yeah, I've got a few.
Then you're going to start an opinion. You're going to start an internet battle. That's all there is to it.
Oh man, excellent.
Just depends on which side you want to inflame.
Yeah, today I had to bite my tongue. I saw a couple of things. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to say it. Oh well. All right.
That's the thing. I have no problem with disagreement. I like when people just express it. Let's just have it out. Let's have the disagreement. The biggest thing I've never understood with the internet is that somehow you not agreeing on a TV show makes you a bad person. That's the part that I can't understand.
Yeah, we take that we take it so personally. I mean, as fans, it's like if somebody doesn't like what I like, then that means that there's something must be wrong with me. Yeah, and there can't be anything wrong with me because it's got to be you. It's interesting. I think we all fall in that trap from time to time, but yeah, we just have to remember it's only a movie.
There was years ago, and I always think about this because I remember in the early days of the web, I started writing a rebuttal to it, thinking I would put together a website that would be a host of essays. Then the term blog didn't exist back then. But Sci-Fi Universe did an article or a cover story, 100 reasons why we hate Return of the Jedi, but love Star Wars. And I thought, and I went through it point by point, and I was like, every one of these is invalid, and here's why. Yeah. I don't know that you could ever get away with doing an article like that now without just having people going crazy on you.
Sure. Wow. Definitely would. Oh, I'd love to read that. See what that was all about.
I promise you, it's in my storage unit.
Oh man, too funny. Excellent. Scott, thank you very much for joining me on this live edition of the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast. Tell folks where people can find you.
I'll hang out on Twitter at Rifen, occasionally at My Star Wars Story, Facebook Rifen. And if you want to catch Morning Talk Radio, that's Scott Rifen on the iHeartRadio app, and every episode's archived there every single day.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And everyone in the chat, thank you very much for joining us on this very special live edition of Scarif. They're all special. They're all special. They're all fun. And yeah, until next time, we'll see what we can come up with next time. But we have another episode dropping next Thursday. I might drop the audio for this on Tuesday in the podcatchers, so check it out. And again, we are part of the Red 5 Network. If you want to leave us a voicemail, please do so at 773-234-8659, or drop us an email at scarifscuttlebutt@gmail.com. We are part of the Red 5 Network. Check the rest of the Red 5 family at bio.link/Red5. Until next time, this is Ro. That's Scott over there. May the force be with you. And that's the Scuttlebutt.